Hi, I'm Andrea Johnston, entrepreneur, communications leader, and a believer in the power of women and the unlimited potential in all of us. On Women I Want You to Know, we shine a light on real women who are breaking barriers, blazing new trails, and redefining what leadership looks like. These are real conversations about ambition, drive, difficult choices, and impact, the kind you won't hear anywhere else. Because every woman's story has the power to propel another from dream to reality. This is Women I Want You to Know. Hello, and welcome back, everyone, to Women I Want You to Know. I'm so excited today to have Carrie Kerpen in the house, and we are going to talk all things exits and building and scaling businesses and women empowerment. So happy to have you here, Carrie. By way of background, everyone, Carrie is the CEO of the Whisper Group. She is really running what is the #1 exit readiness advisory practice for women-owned businesses, a much-needed service, I might add. Prior to launching the Whisper Group, Carrie started and scaled Likeable Media, which was a woman-led digital agency. It was named the 6th best place to work in New York City, which, given the size of New York, that's no small task. After successfully exiting Likeable, she sold it to about a 1,200-person technology firm. She researched the exit gap. You've actually trademarked the phrase, the exit gap. And she's really poured her whole heart and soul into really looking at how do we close that gap so that more women can realize the wealth creation opportunity of building their own businesses, getting the value of what they're worth, and turning that into a legacy and an opportunity long term. She's a certified exit planning advisor, and she lives in New York. And we're just really happy to have you here, Carrie. Thank you.
I'm so happy to be here, Andrea. You are so inspiring and exciting. We've had such similar paths in so many ways. Really, really a lot in common. And I love getting to spend some time with you.
It has been such a joy to get to know another agency builder and owner, and yet what you did was so, I feel like, ahead of the curve with social media and building Likeable and really being at the front end of that whole new area of communications and marketing. Tell us a little bit about that.
I feel like with you and what you built, it was really niched into a specific vertical. And what I built was really niched into a specific service and category. We built Likeable in 2000. We opened in late 2006 and formed formally in 2007. There was no social media agency at that time. We started as a word of mouth marketing agency. My husband and I started it after we got married. We had a very large and bizarre kind of wedding where my husband wanted to invite everyone he's ever known to come to his wedding. Andrea, I don't mean like friends from high school. I mean literally like anyone on this podcast listening. He'd be like, "Oh, I want you to come."
Oh, the waiter at the restaurant where
Yes,
we had our last date. Please come. Yeah.
anyone. Yep, this is who I married, and I'm very lucky and excited to be married to such a vibrant, boisterous personality. So we knew there was nowhere we could hold that or afford it in New York City. I mean, it was nuts. So we pitched a minor league ballpark affiliate of the New York Mets, and we said, "Oh, we'll get married on your field after the game, and in between innings, we'll have sponsors do like different activities. Instead of Pepsi tossing T-shirts into the audience, 1-800-Flowers would toss bridal bouquets, and it would be cute and campy and fun, and everybody could stay and watch a wedding after the game." So that's what we did.
Oh my God, that's so creative. I love
Yeah,
it.
it was really fun. We were married in front of 5,000 of our closest friends, family, and strangers, and all the baseball fans, and we raised over $20,000 for the National MS Society, which is near and dear to my heart. And we also received a ton of press because this was like a sponsored wedding done right, because it was just so interesting because the game was really sponsored. The wedding was technically sponsor free, and it was a feel good story, and all of these sponsors got all this press, and they came up to us and they were like, "Carrie, Dave, this was great. Like, we bet on you, do something." And we both had no idea what to do, or like we weren't going to get married again. I'm going to sponsor baby. So we started a word of mouth marketing company. And that was very quickly, we realized social media was going to be the fastest form. And we just leaned in and owned it. Like, we were like, okay, we're a social media agency. And when we did that, we were able to scale really quickly because nobody did that at the time. And so we were winning Fortune 500s. People didn't know what to do with social media. And we sort of like fumbled our way through, honestly, Andrea. If I'm being honest, like we didn't have agency experience. So we learned by doing, I think. We
Well,
both came.
clearly, the wedding is a great proof point for
Great. It for
You're pretty
something,
good on the
for
fly.
something. Right, we're
Yeah.
good, we're great idea people, but learning how to operationalize that and turn it into something that was ultimately a sellable asset, that was a journey. That was a real journey.
So what specifically did you have to do to sort of scale and take the incredible creativity that you had and the ideas that you were capable of generating and convert that into a sustainable agency that was then something so valuable that you could monetize it through an exit?
Well, I think the start of the scale was a combination of being in the right place at the right time. So we hit on social media, right? It's much like people who were like very early in this infancy of AI, go in and say like we're experts in AI and they can prove it. Like everybody says they're an expert in AI, but there's very few that actually do it, can prove it, can show it. We were the same. So at social media, we got very good at it very quickly. We pushed to scale. Dave was a big growth at all costs person, which got us to a really good point in terms of critical mass. Like once, we talk about how so many founders do not get over $1 million, specifically female founders. I think it's less than 2% of female founders. We were able to cross that threshold very quickly because of the market and Dave's intense desire to push through and scale. Like he saw the moment, he went for the moment. I worked through a lot of like how we operationalized that moment. And that took a really long time. So first, growth happened, right? Like, because revenue solves every problem, right? You have revenue. Oh, what's their problem? Okay, you're growing.
Yeah, right.
But like, there are a lot of problems underneath the hood when you're first figuring that out. So, like, it was people, it was client service, it was contracts, it was cash flow management, it was all of it. And all of that happened, I think, by learning and doing and making mistakes and lots of stuff. And then Dave left in 2013. He wanted to start a tech startup and was going to raise funds to do that. And so we separated the two companies, and I was going to run the services company, the agency, and he was going to run tech. And, in 2013, it was very different than 2007. 2007, nobody did social media. 2013, everybody and their mother did social media, and you're intern and you're this, that, the other. So it was no longer new. We had focused so much on growth. We really hadn't focused on profitability as much. We were so busy growing. And when you win these big clients and they have these long pay cycles and you're trying to figure it out, like it's really hard. And also, everyone around me, specifically in the social space at that time, anyone who was running an agency of substance was pretty like loud on social. They were very extroverted and they were all men. It was like the Gary Vaynerchuk era of social media agency stuff. And I loved it, but like I'm not him. So like Dave leaves and I'm like, oh my God, we're not profitable. Social media is no longer new. And I am not allowed extroverted male and have no interest in like really putting myself out there as influencer. What am I going to do? And so that's where I really focused on I am going to make this business a sellable asset. I'm going to focus on protection of our IP. I'm going to productize our services so that they're easier to sell beyond just the founders. I'm going to work really hard at our margin, like all of that. I read Built to Sell by John Warlow. I was obsessed with it, very inspired, and really focused on that. I mean, that's really where I went, and it was not fast. It was from 2013 to 2021 until I really felt I was ready. And then in 2021, we were able to sell.
Amazing. And it sounds like throughout the process, as you said, you learned as you went along. You were sort of focused on different things at different periods in the evolution of the agency. But, at the end of the day, you grew and you grew consistently, and then you kind of fine-tuned the business model as you went along.
Yes, and I think it was interesting because we in the beginning, it's really easy. I always talk about this with the Inc. 500 list or 5,000. In the beginning, it's really easy to make that list because you've got 3 years, and if you grow from 500,000 to 2,000,000 and you look at the percentage growth on that, it's huge. 500,000 to a million is one thing. 1,000,000 to 2,000,000 is one thing. These are all doubling. When you get 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, it's much harder to keep that same pace of growth.
Totally
And so
agree.
what I think I focused on was, okay, I'm not going to make myself delusional into thinking I'm going to double every year. Like we did that. We doubled and tripled in some years. And then when we got to a certain point, as we got closer to 8 figures of revenue, I started thinking, okay, I'd like to grow can show consistent, measurable growth that matters, but isn't, I think it was the acknowledgement that we weren't running it like a tech company. I was going to focus on EBITDA, I was focus on the profit and make sure we maintain like a steady enough growth and limited churn. That's really when I got real about that and what matters to agency buyers versus listening to a lot of what I see on social media about fast growth and growth at all costs and all this stuff. I think that's when I really was able to impact.
I think that's such a great message for people to hear because, small things grow quickly. And so you can't hold yourself to those first few years of rapid growth, double, triple. You can't expect that that's going to be sustainable. And if it is, there may be other things that you have to evaluate in terms of the business. But I think that's such an important point. And also, the idea of kind of growth at all costs, which oftentimes leads to the implosion of the business. But you were smart enough to say, this is the time where we need to take a step back and really look at, are we generating the right profit? Are we reinvesting in the business in the right places? Do we have the right processes? Because, ultimately, as we both know, buyers look for a combination of things. They're not going to hang their hat, especially with agencies, on any one thing. And so it's really, how do you show up across these different kind of metrics that get them excited?
That's right. And everything you need to do to be attractive to a buyer actually makes your life better, I think. Think about it, right? Like it has to be less founder led. Okay. You mean I need to work less in the business? Okay. It has to have high profits. You mean I need to make money? Okay. You mean I don't have to client diversification? You mean having more than one client and not having my life depend on this one client will help me? Yes. Now, we all have these challenges in our businesses, but if we strive towards that end goal. The end goal actually doesn't have to be to sell. I like the end goal of being sellable, meaning if you run it and it's sellable, you keep it as long as you want. Great. It's like you don't exit isn't the only end game. It's just that every business will eventually exit. So being sellable allows you that freedom and ultimately makes you more money.
100%. I used to do investor relations, and I would tell my private company clients it's never too early to start thinking like a public company and acting like a public company, because putting those processes and procedures in place makes you a better company, whether you're private or public. Just like whether you decide to sell or not, being more profitable, having good processes, working less in the business, being less dependent on a handful of clients. To your point, it just makes your overall business more successful and more enjoyable for you to be running.
For sure, for sure. Certainly in the agency space, there are other things that matter when you're not in a services business, but in a services business, these are the basics that really, I think, matter.
So, given what you achieved, and then the fact that you've now gone on to build the Whisper Group, so talk to us about what you're building now and how you're working with female founders and sort of what you're seeing this landscape looking like.
Oh, it's really so interesting. I've learned a lot in this first year as we're recording this at the end of 25. So it's been just about a year that I've been doing this. So it started with a methodology and a book. It started with, I want to give back after I sold and had this experience and felt really alone and did feel like there was very little content around exits that came through a female lens. And that makes sense. I started looking into it and saw that there's a gap. It's like 1 in 10 companies that exit are fully female founded. And I think for me, and they are also exiting for less, there's a variety of different reasons, but I actually don't like to limit us to that. What I think happens is we're starting these businesses. We don't realize that they can exit because most of the businesses that we start, we're starting because we want freedom of time. We want to be able to be home with our kids. I think we have a very similar start, right? It's like, yes, I started on the wedding, but also like we were having a baby and I wanted that time. And like there was all of that. And I think for us, we think of it as more of something that's going to sustain our lifestyle versus something that can long term be like a real accelerator of wealth. And I think it is possible to actually have both. So I started looking into this, discovered the gap, and then I wanted to write a methodology that was told through a female lens. I came up with Whisper, which is the 7 tenets of building a highly sellable business. It's all based on the same exact stuff that we all teach as like exit planners or anything along those lines. It's just really told through a real lens of empathy. I mean, we talk about, running a business as like through using our feminine energy. I know we have Jessica Zweig as our friend who talks about this all the time. I really wanted that to feel special. And so I started with the book. Then what I wanted to do was build a community of exited female founders because it's like a shared experience that's really interesting that very few people have been through. And so I started by building that community. And then I think I started just by coaching women on my own in my methodology. And then I thought to myself, wow, like if I had had a woman like you who was in my shoes, who had previously sold her business when I was selling, what a gift that would be, and what a gift it would be for you to be able to give back, which we all do all the time. I mean, all the time, but also be able to put value to that. And so I started a process where I matched women and female founders who were looking to exit or build towards exit with women who had done it before them in their exact vertical. So if you have a roofing company, I'm going to match you with Sarah Weiss, who sold Elite Roofing Supply. If you have an agency, you might match with me or somebody like you. And so that's a really interesting program that we've put together. And I think how we fully help the best. So we do exit readiness advisory work. So like you're 1 to 3 years out. And then we also are launching, probably at the time of this podcast will come out, for our select clients, we are launching brokerage services, which is really exciting.
Oh my god, that's
But
amazing.
yeah, it's great. So we onboarded a broker, and then we're doing the advisors do like the advisory work of guiding them through that process, but the broker actually gets them across the finish
Transacts.
line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting. There's a lot of things with the Whisper Group that are exciting, both on the offering services for female founders who are looking to exit. And then there are also services that help benefit the women who've exited around what's next for them.
I love it. I think that is meeting such a huge need in the market. I mean, just speaking from my own experience, you're right. It's a lonely journey. And then you get to the other side of it, and you're largely surrounded by men. So the fact that you're building this community of women who have this really unique shared experience. But then there's also the what's next and how you figure out how to use everything that you've learned, as well as, the financial position you then find yourself in to do good and to give back and to bring other women forward with you. So I think what you're doing is really special and really needed. And you did another book as well.
My first book? Oh
Yes.
my gosh, I wrote Work It. Okay, so back to 2013, Dave leaves the business. Everyone is loud, extroverted, and male. I am like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so I started a podcast called All the Social Ladies. And I was going to interview women who worked at the brand, like social media manager, social media director level, and talk about their journey on how working in social media on the brand side and their growth path, right? And this was like a very niche audience, but it helped them tell their stories because nobody was paying attention to them because everyone's listening to the loud extroverted males. And they were also mid-level, so nobody was, like, approaching them for their interviews like C-suite did. And so it helped them tell their story, and it helped create and find advocates for Likeable because they worked in the space and needed agencies. So it was like a twofold. It was an amazing lead sourcing opportunity, and then it also added so much value to their lives. And I was able to build this immense network through that then grew that had all of these career stories. So originally, Work It was going to be a book called All the Social Ladies, which told all their stories. And I actually wrote it in full. And then I met with a coach who said, you can do bigger and you can do better. Go introduce Sheryl Sandberg and Barbara Corcoran and, all of these people too, and weave it in. So I did. And then I was going to self-publish it. And the coach was like, no, go actually pitch a publisher. And I did. And it was published through Penguin Random House. Harcher Perigee was a division of theirs. Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Amazing.
That was a passion project for me that came from my sort of MO, which is always find ways to add value to your customer, and then your customer will give back to you. It's like always do that first, and then you'll figure out a way to work together. I've always been like that. I've focused on money, but I focused on giving for first. I think is really, really important without expectation of money. And it just always comes.
I think that's so important, especially in client service, but also like in life. But I also love that you have this history of giving voice and providing a platform for women, because I think, that's a great example of very early on giving these women who were otherwise kind of a neglected voice in the industry an opportunity to share their story. And I think that that's got to be highly inspiring and motivating.
It was so fun. All the Social Ladies was such a great time. And now with the Exit Whisperer, it's actually a little similar. I'll tell you why. Because I do interview women who have had humongous exits, right? And like, the exits that we all read about, right? So like the Hailey Biebers of the world and these people, they interview, they have books, they come on, like, okay, fine. But most of the exits that I talk about are largely in between or ones people would never pay attention to and don't realize that, yes, you're able to sell your financial advisory firm and transfer your clients over. Yes, you're able to sell your cleaning company. Like these types of things. And I think it's really important to give space for the voices that are deemed or often seen as less hot, if you will, like less like the moment. I think it's really, really important to tell stories of women that feel relatable to the average human who's building a business, I think.
I totally agree. I mean, to me, it's all about representation, which I think is another way of saying what you're saying. And I feel like there's so much focus on these celebrities who exit these companies, but they've already had such a leg up because they have a personal brand that is the foundation on which everything is built. For the rest of us, it's just been hard work. It's sometimes an often unsexy business, but that doesn't mean there isn't value. It doesn't mean that there isn't someone out there who has done it successfully. So I agree with you. That's and we just need to give more voice to and shine more of a light on those accomplishments because it's so exciting and invigorating to see women in all different career paths and all different business opportunities succeeding and thriving. And I just feel like, especially at a time where there's a lot of women who are exiting the workforce, being able to see these examples of how, yes, you can do what you want to do, you can pursue your passion. It's so important. Doesn't mean that it's not hard work, but it's very possible.
100%. And the thing is, you know what else nobody talks about that we should do something with this, Andrea? I feel like the idea of stackable exits too. Like you you can have you can build like a little newsletter and sell it. Then use the proceeds from that to build a media company and sell it. And then from that proceeds from that media company, then you can invest and build a product company. Like exits can, when you understand them properly, they can really be stackable because your career, think about your career. Your career's in chapters anyway. The idea that we're now going to work at this Fortune 500 forever until we get our gold watch is done. Like, first of all, it's not built for us. But second of all, it's just not happening anymore. It's not the same for very few. And it's not the life I choose. As for me, careers are chapters, businesses are chapters. And I love to help women find their next chapter. Even when I get a lot of calls for women, I do a lot of matching because one of the things I like to do, one of the ways to grow businesses, especially agency businesses, is through inorganic growth and acquisition. You pick up another agency that maybe is just done. And like there's so many of those women who call me who are done and I find them a home somewhere. Their agency can find a home so that they can go to their next chapter. And there's just nothing wrong with that.
You're so right. I'm so glad you said that because I think like there's a view that there's only one way to exit and there's so many different ways to exit. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I'm done with this chapter, but someone else can benefit from everything I've built. And now I'm going to go over here and do this. I mean, why not? Look at what Sarah Blakely's done with, going from Spanx to Sneaks and, building the next big thing and solving a problem again for women in fashion.
By the way, the other interesting thing about that, so think about Sneaks. Sarah Blakely doesn't need to earn a dime for the rest of her life. She doesn't need to earn a dollar, and she's still creating, right? That's the thing. Is like we place so much value on these exits so that we can what? Retire? Like you're sitting here doing this podcast. I'm sitting here. Both of us don't have to be. You want to be because it is using your brain to help solve problems in the world. And I think that the idea that we have to exit for fuck you money, pardon my French, or like, build a happy, I talk about it like, I used to talk about this, the Whisper Group, our mission is to close the exit gap. And that is true. It should be parity. Okay. But I used to talk about, I want to get as much money in the hands of women as possible. I do. But really what I want is for women to have happy, healthy exits that work for them so that they're able to achieve whatever's next, whatever their interest is, et cetera. Because with Likeable, I loved Likeable for the culture. I loved Likeable for the team. I loved Likeable for all of it. But like social media, helping brands with social media was not my fuel. It wasn't what, so fuel for female fat. It wasn't what filled me. What filled me is right here. I mean, this is what fills me. Every day I wake up and I'm like, yeah, I'm happy to go to work. And maybe eventually I won't be. But right now, I'm so happy to go to work. Like how cool is that?
It's so cool. You can feel it too. You have such energy for it. Yeah.
Totally. And yes, I get tired. And yes, I am sometimes burning the candle at both ends and all those things. But at least it's for something I'm really interested in. Oh, it's good.
Yeah. And honestly, to your point, you feel like you have such a tremendous opportunity to give back. So it's not just about what you're building and the revenue and the profits, but it's also about who you're helping and the different lives you're changing through what you're doing with your community and with your business. And now that you're going to have brokerage too, I mean, I just think that that is phenomenal.
Well, brokerage came out of a need because we were helping all these women. Then they were like, they could not stand anyone that they were working with. Most of if it's it's a little different, like with an investment bank. If you're investment bank worthy and you want to go there, then you should be using a banker and we will help do a ride along with you. But like for most women that are like 1 to 2 million in EBITDA or below, like they need a broker and they need somebody who's gonna like really focus on them and understand them and help them find buyers. And like the women in our community know the buyers because we've all sold them before. We just need somebody who actually can build the process that makes sure that it is pleasant and not broken. And I think so much of brokerage is broken. And so right now what we're doing with brokerage is interesting is like we're not interested in building it out as our primary service. Like it's not like the Whisper Group is a brokerage firm. It's really an exit readiness advisory practice that has brokerage services to meet the needs of its clients that have done the work. And we'll be like, I think, really select about that, which I'm excited about because I just don't think I think normally it's a keep what you kill business, and it's the same like real estate. Like it's really hard business, and so what we wanted to do was be really intentional and flip the script on that a little bit.
I love it because in my experience, brokerage is very transactional. So I love your, example of real estate as a metaphor because it's a great analogy. I think if you do something, especially for clients where you're already so knowledgeable about their business and you're able to really customize every aspect of the transaction process, I mean, that is a very bespoke way to think about it.
It is, and it'll be interesting. It's going to be an interesting ride in 26 as we're launching that right at the start of 26. We're really excited. We beta tested it. It's gone well so far, so that's been good.
And see, I can see it. Like started with one thing, you continue to add to it and grow it. So it's more to your example of it's not like, you're retiring or just out there, advising. You're actually still in it and building it. And that's amazing.
Fully building, full second act, full building on my own terms. And I think the benefit of having had an exit is that there's few benefits. The first is you have financial security that allows you to take the risk. So many of us, when we start, we are like, you have no safety net. So it's really scary and hard for so many of us. And I never forget that. And the second area is that once you've done it, it's infinitely easier to do it again. Because you know what works and how to build them. You've done it before.
No, I think that's very true. So tell me this, you are the mom of 3 kids and they are all in various stages of adulting or getting toward adulting.
One itty bitty. So they range in age from 22 to 10.
Okay, yeah, so 10 is like far away. I was thinking they were closer to high school, but when you think about their futures and when they come to you for advice on everything from part-time jobs to internships to fully adulting jobs, what advice do you give your kids?
It's the same thing that I would have said 20 years ago, which is your network is your net worth. Meet everybody, talk to everybody, send thank you notes, send follow-ups, make eye contact, all the shit that is like no longer inherent for these kids. And like, I'm very fortunate, I think, with the 2 girls. Seth's too young. They both really do that. My oldest daughter got a job with the NFL, with an NFL team, which was very hard to do. Did not have a sports management degree and wanted to work in live event production. hyper-organized event planner. And she just set out to do it, and she networked until she got there. It's funny because everyone always asks me, like, okay, who did you know there? Did you know someone? I knew no one. She did it. There was actually another team where I knew someone. I was like, oh, there's a lock. She actually didn't get that. She got one that she got all on her own.
That's kind of better, though.
It's better. And just teaching them those skills of how to communicate and network is by far the most important thing. And also just lose the fear mentality. I want these kids, yes, it is definitely, they're growing up in an age of a total re-industrial revolution. AI is changing everything, but it's making it so interesting. It's the scarcity versus abundance mindset. I look at AI oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to do my deep work so much faster because I have this support. Not AI is come and take my job. And for kids that are coming out into the world, it's much easier to be afraid that AI is going to take your job because you don't have that build and that connection. But I just say, do not subscribe to that. I just met a kid from college. I was at a builder's. I was with a client. We were doing their annual planning, and she was like, "Oh, I have this kid from high school that we have as an intern, and he built our AI agent. He comes and he presents." And I was like, "The kids are going to run the whole world. He's 16. It's don't stop worrying and start creating and go meet people. That's it. That's how I feel."
I love it. I think that's so spot on. Those soft skills that so much of us hung our hat on, it hasn't changed. Those are still highly valuable. In some ways, they're even scarcer than they were back in the day. So I think that's great advice. Well, is there anything we haven't covered that you want to communicate to the women listening or to the founders out there?
No, just that I'm looking forward to your podcast release, which will be in early next year. I just switched to doing in person for the first time, and I'm really excited about the season. So if you are listening to this, you probably would enjoy The Exit Whisperer, which is our podcast. And that's it. And Andrea is a fantastic guest. She was one of my favorite episodes.
Well, I cannot wait for that episode, and we will definitely be linking to your podcast in our show notes. I'm a big fan of The Exit Whisperer, and I love the fact that you're rocking the swag today in
Of
this
course.
interview. But Carrie, thank you so much. It's been such a joy to get to know you over this last year, and I'm grateful to the Entreprenista community for bringing us together. And I'm grateful that we have so many women in common in our circle. And I'm excited about what you're building and where it's going to go next year. I can't wait.
I love it. Love you. Love Fuel for Female Founders. Love all of the stuff that we're building. The thing is there is so much space. There's not enough. We could not do enough to help women grow and get across the finish line and build what they're trying to do. We are just starting out in the space of at the speed that we're building and starting stuff. We all need a lot of help. And so I'm so grateful to have you in my orbit as somebody who I can refer to and just really who puts out great content. I'm so happy to have you in my life.
Me too. And when I look at all the men and the number of resources and networks and everything they have available to them, this is all still in its infancy. There's so much room to grow.
And we should be in those spaces too. I mean, that's the thing is do not isolate, do not be entirely in spaces just for women, but use the spaces for women to be able to communicate the things that you might not in those spaces. And that's what's really special and important.
Well said. Very well said. Well, thank you again, Carrie. So glad you were here today. Such a joy. And fight on. Look forward to continuing the conversation.
I love it.
And you take care.
Thank
and
you.
We will talk soon. Thank you for being here today and sharing in this inspiring story from Women I Want You to Know. Please leave a review and share this episode with another woman in your life. And join the conversation and connect with us on LinkedIn and Instagram and keep fueling the future for female founders and leaders. Thank you.